First of all, I don't know if Pat's here, but I want to thank her for giving us the opportunity to speak. We talked to her a couple months ago about the progress of our company, and I think it's going to come up here eventually here. There we go. And she basically asked me to kind of talk about how the journey has been. So that's basically what I'm going to talk about. But what I wanted to do is kind of relate it to the field that we're all talking about, which is aerospace and rocket science. So what I wanted to talk about is I worked on the Space Dev Streaker launch vehicle. I put a program together for the Falcon, SpaceX Falcon 1. We worked on satellite programs. So I know the pain that aerospace community has, and they have a lot of hard problems. With a launch vehicle, you're talking about thrust to weight ratios, separation sequences, which SpaceX found out on one of their launches. You know, timing is everything. And orbital insertion. I mean, these are really tough problems. On the spacecraft side, you got orbital dynamics, you got re-entry, and you got thermal protection systems. And this is just the tip of the iceberg. But aerospace and rocket science is hard. They have a lot of tough problems to solve. What do they have that entrepreneurs do not? Well, first of all, they have a team of people. You're looking at them. Now, I do have a team now, luckily, but for a long time, it was just me, and that's typical entrepreneurs. They have to do it all. Nights, weekends, we don't get holidays. We just work all the time pursuing our passion. Aerospace companies typically have a lot more time to figure these problems out. We don't. We have to do it all, and we have to do it now. Money. Aerospace companies typically have a lot more money than entrepreneurs because we have ideas. We have all kinds of ideas on how to get this thing done. The problem is we have to convince other people to give us their money to make it happen. Aerospace companies, you get a steady paycheck for the most part. We get mac and cheese. So there's a joke on the entrepreneur circuit, which is you're either feast or famine. You're either eating mac and cheese or driving Maseratis. So it's either working or it's not. But the key is to keep going at it. And I use the analogy of aunt and uncle because what frustrated me as being part of the aerospace community was, you got a lot of good people doing a lot of good things. And when you do good work, a lot of times you don't really get the credit the company does. So I consider it kind of the aunt and uncle scenario where you're helping your nephew learn how to play football, and then he becomes a superstar, and he goes, "Thanks, Mom." With a proud parent, basically what that is you come up with an idea and you nurture it, and it becomes your baby. It becomes the pinnacle. You basically have created something. And it's yours. Nobody else is going to take credit for it. How this translates into entrepreneurship is two examples I came up with was Spaceship One. I was lucky enough to work on Spaceship One, and I was lucky enough to work on a program, the Operation and Responsive Space Office called Trailblazer for SpaceX. And one thing I found that was common between both these companies is neither of these solutions would have existed had it not been for the entrepreneur. Burt Rutan came up with the idea of Spaceship One in his mind, and people thought he was nuts. Elon Musk came from outside of the aerospace industry and just hired a bunch of people because he wanted to do this. These solutions would not have been in existence had it not been for the passion and the drive of an entrepreneur. So what is our journey like? Well, first of all, we come up with the idea that's going to change the world. Well, at least that's what we think. Other people, not so much. I call it the ugly baby syndrome because we're running around telling everybody about the next greatest thing. I mean, this is just so cool, and you just won't believe this. And all your friends and family, they just tell you how much you're going to fail. And you got to look past that. And they're doing it because they're trying to protect you. They're trying to keep you from, blowing all your money on this brainiac idea. But the whole point is you have to be persistent and consistent. You're going to face challenges. You're going to face obstacles. You're going to face life. I mean, there's any number of things people go through trials and tribulations in their life, and that can totally distract you from your goal, and you gotta stay persistent and consistent. You gotta keep moving forward, and no matter how long it takes. This is a quote I read in a book recently that talked about the guy that came up with the idea of curves. Now, this was after he spent time in prison because he went in default on his previous business. And he actually created curves, and the summary of the quote is basically, if I fail, so what? If I lose all my money, so what? I'm just going to keep doing it, because that's what the passion is all about. So this was my Brainiac idea back in November of 2006. I worked on the Spaceship One program, and I realized this was going to be huge. This market was going to take off, and I needed to do something because it was here. And this was in 2006. So I came up with the idea of saying, okay, what do I need to do to be part of it? And I came up with space training. People are going to need to be trained for space, but nobody's going to pay for space training facilities in a market where there isn't anybody flying. So I came up with the idea of this space park where people could go and do all these cool adventures and roller coaster rides and all these other things, and they would come to watch people train for space. Now, fast forward 10 years, the market crashed. Nobody wanted to invest $1 billion in my Brainiac idea. So actually, at this conference, I bumped into some folks from NASA, and they said, hey, why are you talking about building your own facility when we have the best facilities on the planet? And the shuttle is retiring next year, so come talk to us. Maybe there's some way we can work together. So I did. 4 years later, unfortunately, we couldn't figure out a way to do it. But what NASA did do is they figured out ways to work with us and transfer technology and help us develop our programs. So in January of this year, we received FAA safety approval for all 4 of our space training programs. We have a pre-suborbital program, a suborbital, orbital, and payload specialist. We're the only company that's looking at the full gambit of solutions. We have over $1 million invested in our company. We have 2 letters of intent for the training. And we're developing a new space training technology called the Modular EVA Training System. When we realized we couldn't use NASA facilities, we had to figure out a way to meet the demand with a commercial solution. So we actually came up with what we're calling the MET. This is a 12-foot tall by 10-foot long structure. You have the spaceflight participant is in a gravity offset system, so they can go up and down. And the MET actually turns on its own axis and rotates, so you can simulate somebody going upside down in space. So it's a really unique system. It's safe, it's low cost, and we're developing it right now on a Kickstarter. We figured that was a great way to get the word out. So it's called Spacewalking on Earth, and it's live right now. So in conclusion, life as an entrepreneur is very, very hard, but it's rewarding, and ultimately, the project in your mind rarely becomes the end product. It becomes better. You got to be persistent and consistent. There's a lot of naysayers out there, and you'll never find them when you succeed. And this is why I'm doing it. Because it's not about the money, it's about making a difference. And I want my son to get the opportunity to go to space. Thank you.
Thanks, Kevin. Good luck.
Thank you.